You ever ask yourself what the loneliest job on earth is? I got to thinking about it. I said, I wonder what it's like to be a lighthouse keeper, but I don't think we have any of those anymore. This week I got an answer. I swear the only reason we have a telephone in our house is so telemarketers have somebody to call. And of course they call 4, 5, 6 times a week. Finally one of them comes up and says, Government of Canada. And I thought, oh Lord, I got to answer this one. It's probably the revenue agency looking for more money. Give unto Caesar, right? I pick up the phone, there's this nice fellow on the other line. He goes, excuse me, sir, I'm from Stats Canada, I want to do a veterans survey. I said, well, you don't want to check? I said, no. Perfect. And he wanted to do a veterans health survey. So he started asking me a bunch of questions about health this and health that, and who was I, and so on. How long had I served? At one point, he asked a question that landed on a question that I think about all the time. I hear young people, old people, everybody in between say this, how lonely people are today. It's almost like we're more connected through our smartphones and 1,000 different devices than ever before, but we're not connected at all. I've heard it said that social media, it's almost as though it's replaced our God-given need for love with our need for attention. But as he's going through the survey, he got to one question. He said, do you have anyone you can trust? That's a fantastic moment, because it's a bit like sitting at the airport and watching a sea of humanity go by and recognizing all these people in the crowd. Hundreds of faces went by. My best friend from grade school. We got in trouble lots. My best man at my wedding, my brother. My best friend in high school stood next to him at our wedding. The list went on and on and on. And then he said, as I'm daydreaming about all these people, including men I've served with and people I've known, he said, not including your spouse. I said, well, for the record, I trust my spouse. And he started to laugh. He goes, oh no, there's a whole section on her. Don't worry about that. And then before we got on to the next question, I asked him, I said, is there anybody ever says no to that? I mean, do you have anyone you can trust? There's this awkward silence from this poor man. I thought, I suppose you're used to asking the questions, don't answer them, so I'll stop and we can carry on. The rest of the interview, I kept thinking about the people who might say no to that. And then as I daydreamed along, it was like one person stood out in the crowd in a really spectacular way. It brought back a beautiful memory. I remember this day because it was Palm Sunday. I'd been called to go somewhere else and I was on a patrol somewhere in southern Afghanistan. So I walked and walked and walked. And then we were standing outside the lab and his job was to take me to another patrol base. And he looks at me and he says, Steve, as I'm wearing away a rosary in my pocket and he's smoking a cigarette, if you die out here, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. It would not be good if our chaplain died. And normally I have some quick rhetorical answer to a comment like that. I looked at him, I said, listen, I love you too. And thank you. It's the only answer I could give him. The whole way back, as we're riding in this armored vehicle, I was thinking about that comment. People dying all around us. At the beginning of John's Gospel, there's this beautiful line, John 3:16. God so loved the world. Everyone knows that one. There's usually some guy with a placard outside holding it up, John 3:16. Even the Christians know that one. And the Gospel of John really only makes sense if you're willing to read the rest of it. On the eve of his death, Jesus puts 3:16 into practice. He kneels before his brothers and washes their feet like the same broken, dirty, ugly feet I marched out of the desert with that day. Then he says, you call me master, but I call you friend. Then he goes on to say, most beautiful line ever, and it's quoted so much in memorials to soldiers and sailors and airmen and women and firefighters and police officers and all kinds of service members. No greater love than this, that a person should give their life for a friend. No greater love than this. And of course we know the rest of the story. One of those friends would betray him. They'd nail him to a cross. They'd murder him. I think about all those great moments in Jesus' life. When he hung there on the cross, it was like God saying in his Son, I'm going to write you a blank check. Something I'd never give to Revenue Canada, by the way. I'm going to write you a blank check because this is what I love you means to me. This is what my friendship means to me. This is what friendship looks like. This is the answer when God looked at Adam and said, You know it's not good that he's alone? His answer is this moment of, I love you. Thank you. I thought about that since then, and I wish I'd given my friend a better answer, but as I journeyed towards the cross that week and celebrated the great moments, the spectacular nature of my faith, all I could think about is that every decent, noble, beautiful thing I've ever done, every heroic, kind, truly concerned moment of a friend's life, like what he said to me that day, it's as though we're all writing checks out of that same account, all writing the same blank check. I love you this much. Amen.